Hello, this is Moral Bernard with Nirvana, meditation, knowledge, wisdom, the story of Siddhartha. Please subscribe and please share the video. Appreciated. Last words were, I will ask no one for food anymore. Suddenly, pride flared up in him. He was no samana anymore. It was no longer becoming to him to beg. He gave the rice cake to a dog and remained without food. Simple is the life which people lead in this world here, thought Siddhartha. It presents no difficulties. Everything was difficult, toilsome, and ultimately hopeless when I was still a samana. Now everything is easy like those lessons in kissing which Kamala is giving me. I need clothes and money, nothing else. These are small, near goals. They won't make a person lose any sleep. He had already discovered Kamala's house in the city long before. There he turned up the following day. Things are working out well, she called out to him. They are expecting you at Kamalwasami's. He is the richest merchant of the city. If he'll like you, he'll accept you into his service. Be smart, Brown Samana. I had others tell him about you. Be polite towards him. He's very powerful. But don't be too modest. I do not want you to become his servant. You shall become his equal, or else I won't be satisfied with you. Kamaswami is starting to get old and lazy. If he'll like you, he'll entrust you with a lot. Siddhartha thanked her and laughed. And when she found out that he had not eaten anything yesterday and today, she sent for bread and fruits and treated him to it. You've been lucky, she said when they parted. I'm opening one door after another for you. How come? Do you have a spell? Siddhartha said, Yesterday I told you I knew how to think, to wait, and to fast. But you bought this was of no use. But it is useful for many things, Kamala. You'll see. You'll see that the stupid samanas are learning and able to do many pretty things in the forest, which the likes of you aren't capable of. The day before yesterday, I was still a shaggy beggar. As soon as yesterday, I have kissed Kamala, and soon I'll be a merchant and have money, and all those things you insist upon. Well, yes, she admitted. But where would you be without me? What would you be if Kamala wasn't helping you? Dear Kamala, said Siddhartha, and straightened up to his full height. When I came to you into your grove, I did the first step. It was my resolution to learn love from this most beautiful woman. From that moment on, when I had made this resolution, I also knew that I would carry it out. I knew that you would help me. At your first glance, at the entrance of the grove, I already knew it. But what if I hadn't been willing? You were willing. Look, Kamala, when you throw a rock into the water, it will speed on the fastest course to the bottom of the water. This is how it is when Siddhartha has a goal, a resolution. Siddhartha does nothing. He waits. He thinks. He fasts. But he passes through the things of the world like a rock through water, without doing anything, without staring. He's drawn. He lets himself fall. His goal attracts him because he doesn't let anything enter his soul which might oppose the goal. This is what Siddhartha has learned among the samanas. This is what fools can't call magic, and of which they think it would be effected by means of demons. Nothing is affected by demons. There are no demons. Everyone can perform magic. Everyone can reach his goals if he's able to think, if he's able to wait, if he's able to fast. Kamala listened to him. She loved his voice. She loved the look from his eyes. Perhaps it is so, she said quietly. As you say, friend. But perhaps it is also like this. That Siddhartha is a handsome man. That his glance pleases the women. That therefore good fortune is coming towards him. With one kiss, Siddhartha bid his farewell. I wish that it should be this way, my teacher, that my glance shall please you, that always good fortune shall come to me out of your direction. Siddhartha went to Kamaswami, the merchant. He was directed into a rich house. Servants led him between precious carpets into a chamber where he waited the master of the house. Kamaswami entered, a swiftly, smoothly moving man with very grey hair, with very intelligent, cautious eyes, with a greedy mouth. Politely the host and the guests greeted one another. I have been told, the merchant began, that you were a Brahmin, a learned man, but that you seek to be in the service of a merchant. Might you have become destitute, Brahmin, so that you seek to serve? No, said Siddhartha. I have not become destitute, and have never been destitute. You should know that I am coming from the Samanas with whom I've lived for a long time. If you're coming from the Samanas, you be anything but destitute. Aren't the Samanas entirely without possessions? I am without possessions, said Siddhartha. If this is what you mean, surely I am without possessions, but I'm so voluntarily, and therefore I am not destitute. But what are you planning to live off, being without possessions? I haven't thought of this yet, sir. For more than 3 years I have been without possessions, and have never thought about of what I should live. So you're lived of the possessions of others. Presumably this is how it is. After all, a merchant also lives of what other people own. Well said. But he wouldn't take anything from another person for nothing. He would give his merchandise in return. So it seems to be indeed. Everyone takes. Everyone gives. Such is life. But if you don't mind me asking, being without possessions, what would you like to give? Everyone gives what he has. The warrior gives strength. The merchant gives merchandise. The teacher teachings. The farmer rice. The fisher fish. Yes, indeed. And what is it now that you've got to give? What is it that you've learned? What you're able to do? I can think. I can wait. I can fast. That's everything. I believe that's everything. And what's the use of that, for example, the fasting? What is it good for? It is very good, sir. When a person has nothing to eat, fasting is the smartest thing he could do. When, for example, Siddhartha hadn't learned to fast, he would have to accept any kind of service before this day's up, whether it may be with you or wherever, because hunger would force him to do so. But like this, Siddhartha can wait calmly. He knows no impatience. He knows no emergency. For a long time he can allow hunger to besiege him and can laugh about it. This, sir, is what fasting is good for. You are right, Samana. Wait for a moment. Kamaswami left the room and returned with a scroll, which he handed to his guest while asking, "Can you read this?" Siddhartha looked at the scroll on which a sales contract had been written down and began to read out its contents. "Excellent," said Kamaswami. "And would you write something for me on this piece of paper?" He handed him a piece of paper and a pen, and Siddhartha wrote and returned the paper. Kamaswami read, "Writing is good. Thinking is better. Being smart is good. Being patient is better. It is excellent how you're able to write," the merchant praised. "Many a thing we will still have to discuss with one another. For today, I'm asking you to be my guest and to live in this house." Siddhartha thanked and accepted and lived in the dealer's house from now on. Clothes were brought to him and shoes, and every day a servant prepared a bath for him. Twice a day a plentiful meal was served, but Siddhartha only ate once a day, and ate neither meat nor did he drink wine. Kamaswami told him about his trade, showed him the merchandise and storage rooms, showed him calculations. Siddhartha got to know many new things. He heard a lot and spoke little. And thinking of Kamala's words, he was never subservient to the merchant, forced him to treat him as equal, yes, even more than an equal. Kamaswami conducted his business with care and often with passion. But Siddhartha looked upon all of this as if it was a game, the rules of which he tried hard to learn precisely, but the contents of which did not touch his heart. He was not in Kamaswami's house for long, when he already took part in his landlord's business. But daily, at the hour appointed by her, he visited beautiful Kamala, wearing pretty clothes, fine shoes, and soon he brought her gifts as well. Much he learned from her red, smart mouth. Much he learned from her tender, supple hand. Him, who was regarding love still a boy and had a tendency to plunge blindly and insatiably into lust like into a bottomless pit. Him she taught, thoroughly starting with the basics, about that school of thought which teaches that pleasure cannot be taken without giving pleasure, and that every gesture, every caress, every touch, every look, every spot of the body, however small it was, had its secret, which would bring happiness to those who know about it and unleash it. She taught him that lovers must not part from one another after celebrating love, without one admiring the other, without being just as defeated as they had been victorious, so that none of them should start feeling fed up or bored and get that evil feeling of having abused or having been abused. Wonderful hours he spent with a beautiful and smart artist, became her student, her lover, her friend. Here, with Kamala, was the worth and purpose of his present life, not with the business of Kamaswami. The merchant passed duties of writing important letters and contracts onto him, and got into the habit of discussing all important affairs with him. He soon saw that Siddhartha knew little about rice and wool, shipping and trade, but that he acted in a fortunate manner, and that Siddhartha surpassed him, the merchant, in calmness and equanimity, and in the art of listening and deeply understanding previously unknown people. This Brahman, he said to a friend, is no proper merchant and will never be one. There is never any passion in his soul when he conducts our business. But he has that mysterious quality of those people to whom success comes all by itself. Whether this may be a good star of his birth, magic, or something, he has learned among some others. He always seems to be merely playing with our business affairs. They never fully become a part of him. They never rule over him. He is never afraid of failure. He is never upset by a loss. Befriend, advise the merchant. Give him from the business he conducts for you a third of the profits. But let him also be liable for the same amounts of the losses. When there is a loss, then he'll become more zealous. Kamaswami followed the advice. But Siddhartha cared little about this. When he made a profit, he accepted it with equanimity. When he made losses, he laughed and said, "Well, look at this. So this one turned out badly." It seemed indeed as if he did not care about the business. At one time he travelled to a village to buy a large harvest of rice there. But when he got there, the rice had already been sold to another merchant. Nevertheless, Siddhartha stayed for several days in that village, treated the farmers for a drink, gave copper coins to their children, joined in the celebration of a wedding, and returned extremely satisfied from his trip. Kamaswami held against him that he had not turned back right away, that he had wasted time and money. Siddhartha answered, "Stop scolding, dear friend. Nothing was ever achieved by scolding. If a loss has occurred, let me bear that loss. I am very satisfied with this trip. I have gotten to know many kinds of people. A Brahmin has become my friend. Children have sat on my knees. Farmers have shown me their fields. Nobody knew that I was a merchant." "That's all very nice," exclaimed Kamaswami indignantly. "But in fact, you are a merchant after all. One ought to think. Or might you have only travelled for your amusement?" "Surely," Siddhartha laughed, "surely I have travelled for my amusement? For what else? I have gotten to know people and places. I have received kindness and trust. I have found friendship. Look, my dear, if I had been Kamaswami, I would have travelled back, being annoyed and in a hurry, as soon as I had seen that my purchase had been rendered impossible, and time and money would indeed have been lost. But like this, I have had a few good days. I've learnt, had joy. I've neither harmed myself nor others by annoyance and hastiness. And if I'll ever return there again, perhaps to buy an upcoming harvest or for whatever purpose it might be, friendly people will receive me in a friendly and happy manner, and I will praise myself for not showing any hurry and displeasure at that time. So leave it as it is, my dear friend, and don't harm yourself by scolding. If the day will come when you will see, this Siddhartha is harming me, then speak a word and Siddhartha will go on his own path. But until then, let's be satisfied with one another." Futile were also the merchant's attempts to convince Siddhartha that he should eat his bread. Siddhartha ate his own bread, or rather, they both ate other people's bread, all people spread. Siddhartha never listened to Kamaswami's worries, and Kamaswami had many worries. Whether there was a business deal going on which was in danger of failing, or whether a shipment of merchandise seemed to have been lost, or a debtor seemed to be unable to pay, Kamaswami could never convince his partner that it would be useful to utter a few words of worry or anger to that wrinkles on the forehead, to sleep badly. When one day Kamaswami held against him that he had learned everything he knew from him, he replied, "Would you please not kid me with such jokes? What I've learned from you is how much a basket of fish cost and how much interest may be charged on loaned money. These are your areas of expertise. I haven't learned to think from you, my dear Kamaswami. You ought to be the one seeking to learn from me." You have been listening to The World of Siddhartha. Oh, join me for the next video of Nirvana, knowledge, wisdom, meditation. Me, Morale Bernard, and of course, Siddhartha. Join me for the next video. I'll see you then. Okay, Morale.